Okay. Good evening, all. Welcome everyone to the last day of TalkLoop series. Being the last day, we should end it up with a bang. Yes, I'm profusely overjoyed to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Vishak Nair. I know this man needs no introduction. He's well familiar to you as Cookie. He is an alumnus of National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, and he found his way into film industry through Aanandam in 2016. So from mechanical engineer to a movie actor, his path and journey is quite inspiring. So let's hear it about it from him itself. And to all audience, we are having an interactive session at the end. So if you have having any queries or questions to ask him, drop it in the comment box. We would be asking it to him. So without further delay, let's move on to the session. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Dia, for that wonderful introduction. Quite something. Thank you so much for having me as a part of this talk series, and it's really my pleasure to be here today. I hope speaking in English isn't going to be an issue. I was informed that there are going to be people joining us from all parts of the country, so I'll be sticking to English primarily, and we'll switch to Malayalam if need be towards the end, towards the interactive session, which is something that I'm really looking forward to. So without further ado, I think the topic of my discussion, or the topic of today's talk, is primarily about my journey from being a mechanical engineer to how I got into the so-called film field or the film industry. And so I'll start right from the top, right? So it was in 2012 I joined the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal, to pursue my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Right off the bat, let me be very frank and forthright in telling all of you that joining an engineering college wasn't my first option at the time. Right before I joined engineering, for a few years, right from when I was in the 10th grade, I was in fact bitten by the proverbial cinema bug, or the film bug, as people like to call it, primarily because of a lot of things. One, that I was a Gulf Malayali. I was born and brought up in Sharjah, and since both my parents were working employees at the time, they used to make it a point to get us DVDs. By us, I mean my brother and I, DVDs of the latest films, whichever the latest films were. And my dad used to be a ardent fan of a lot of the early action flicks that used to dominate the film roster back in the 90s, and films like Under Siege or Die Hard and Terminator and Predator and whatnot. So right from the age of 15, 16, I was exposed to a lot of these films. In fact, even before that, I was exposed to a lot of these films which were technically not children's films. I did watch my fair share of children's films as well, but there were quite a lot of these action adventure films, a lot of them violent, gory films that I had the immense pleasure of watching. So as time went on, my brother and I, we took it upon ourselves to try and recreate the scenes and the set pieces that we so very much enjoyed from these films. And in the process, we did wreak havoc. We did end up breaking a few beds. We did end up causing a lot of nuisance in our apartment building. And pretty soon, a lot of our friends who used to otherwise come and play hide and seek and football and cricket with us, nice enough to encourage us and entertain us and oblige and be a part of these short films that we used to, so very much enjoy making. That was the trend for a couple of years, right from when I was in 7th, 8th, 9th. We had this tiny CyberShot camera. I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know how many of you guys have ever used a camera, but it was a simple point and shoot CyberShot camera. And that was our major plaything. The other kids would have PlayStations and Xboxes, and we elected to have this instead. So we used to make it a point to shoot our own little home videos and home films every chance we got, especially during the summer vacations. So that trend went on for a couple of years, and I think it was not before the ninth grade, when we decided to write a story of our own, and create something of our own that wasn't entirely, a rip-off of something that we saw in a movie earlier. And in the process, we were able to write very small 5-10 minute films, which were primarily action films for some reason. I suppose it was because we were kids at the time, and those are the kind of films that really excited us. We ended up doing a lot of them. I still have a few of those films with me, and the titles are amazing. Original titles such as The Furious Fight, Lockdown in Apartment 607. Yeah. So it was a fun experiment. It was a fun experience of sorts, where all of our friends used to get together, and we used to shoot these films. None of us knew, neither of us knew editing of any sort. So the only way we could actually edit it was to shoot these clips one after the next. And by then we had moved on to a DV camera, with this tiny cassette inside. And that was the family handycam. So we used to use that as our primary equipment. And we used to shoot these scenes in order, so we wouldn't have to edit it later. And if there was a shot that required a retake, we used to only print the retake, and we would record over the other takes, so as to make sure that when you played the tape backwards, it would be in the order that we wanted it to be. So it was a very let's say taxing process, but it was an enjoyable process nonetheless. We ended up making a lot of these films, and soon we started doing music videos of songs that we enjoyed back in the day. One of them was Limp Bizkit's a theme song from the second Mission Impossible movie. I still remember that was quite an impressive piece of work. So that's how I first got into, let's say, this place in my head where I genuinely started enjoying not only the process of watching films, but also trying to recreate them at home. And it was just a hobby, but it was a hobby that that I really enjoyed, and that both my brother and I both really enjoyed doing. All was well till when I was in my 10th grade. That was in 2007. And unfortunately, by then, my brother was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he passed away a few months later. And I spiraled into this, deep, dark place where I was extremely depressed for a few months. And coincidentally, it also happened to be right before the summer vacations that this happened. So a lot of my closest friends, the ones that I still hold dear, a lot of them got together and they told me, what, Machad, there's this, thing that you enjoy doing a lot back in the day, and what say we all, put our brains together and we make a film. And I was like, yeah, whatever, let's do it. So over the next 2 months, over the summer vacations, we got together and ended up making a film about well, it was about a bunch of nerds, which we were. I was a huge nerd back in the day, and I'm very proud of it. And so were my friends, right? So it was about a bunch of nerds like us who would, rise up against the cool kids in school. So against bullying and whatnot. So that was in our heads a very inspirational tale that we tried to tell. At the end of those 2 months, we came up again with this whole DV film technique. We were able to come up with this film, and we called in all of our friend circle, and we invited our parents, and everyone got together, and we made a huge deal out of it, and I made a premiere out of it. And that was my first real experience putting together a films from scratch with an expanded crew that included not just the people I was interacting with every day at home and in my building, but also with people from my extended circle as well. And we even shot outside. We had to run away from the authorities a couple of times because, well, technically you need permission to do the kind of things that we were doing. But everything else aside, it came out brilliantly. And that was the first real short film that I ever put together. And back then, more than acting, it was the whole process of writing and directing and putting together a piece of film that excited me more. Time went on, and it was the 11th grade, and this year around, I thought, what, we had so much fun doing it last year, let's do it again, right? So I really sat down with my friends again, the same bunch of people again, and we sat down set out to write a screenplay, which we thought would be for a short film, but it ended up being a 1.5 hour uh, film of sorts. And once again, the theme was very similar. It was about the underdogs rising up against the so-called established goons of the area. And the only thing that was different this time around was that this was around the world of street football. I used to play a lot of football back in the day, and so did my friends. And we thought, what, let's put the two things together, because then we could play our football and also shoot your damn film. So we ended up doing that, and that was called the Death and Resurrection Show. Yeah, we were very heavy with our titles, very heavy-handed with our titles, and it was a 1.5 hour film. This time around, I thought, what, let's do something differently. Anyway, we've put together this brilliant, what I thought back then was a brilliant film, and I wanted to take things a little further, and that's what prompted me to learn editing on the evergreen Windows Movie Maker, and that allowed a great scope that opened my eyes to the world of editing and putting music and image together, which was able to create a whole different effect altogether. And that was really eye-opening for me and my friends, and we put it together, and we were really proud of the work that we've done. So I was secretary of the students council of the student body in school, and come arts day, the end of the term, when we had to, as the seniors, as the 11th graders, organize the show for that year. A bunch of my friends and I, again, we went up to the headmistress and we made a very humble request, at the end of the show, could we please show our film? And she wasn't very sure at first, because she didn't know what this film was about. She didn't know if it was worth showing. So she, assigned the task of assessing the quality of a film made by a bunch of 11th graders to this very dear teacher of mine. Her name's Prabha. So Prabha ma'am was our English teacher, and she was nice enough to watch the whole film and actually appreciate it for the effort that we put in, and also for the film in itself. And she gave the thumbs up, and we were overjoyed. And cut to a few weeks later, and at the end of the Talent Day, we had around 300, 400 students in an auditorium. The lights went down, and for the first time on a big screen, we were able to show our film. To this day, I think that's one of the most life-changing experiences, let's say fulfilling experiences I've ever had, because on that day I realized that this medium of filmmaking that was just a hobby till that day could be something much more. This could be something that I take forward as my life's calling or mission, whatever you like to call it. Simply because when the film played, when the lights went down and the film played, it was such a moving feeling, such an experience to see your friends, your classmates, and your juniors, and a whole bunch, and your teachers, and a whole bunch of people, around 300 people, sit and watch your film, your vision, and react in a way that you couldn't have possibly ever expected. To see them hoot, cry, clap, applaud, and finally at the end of it, want more. That was really quite something. And on that day, I got back home, and I sat my parents down, and in a very serious, rehearsed manner, I went up to them and I told them, "Ma, Pa, I want to be a filmmaker." They took their time, they thought about it, and they got back to me. No, you're not going to be a filmmaker. You're going to be an engineer. And I think it's quite the stereotype to expect most Indian parents to ask their children to do engineering first and then do whatever else that you want to do. And that stereotype didn't fail this time around either, and very rightfully so. Now, after all these years, when I think back at their decision at that point, so I joined engineering coaching, and it was let's say a long and difficult 2 years of slogging away and trying to make sense of how to approach this examination that was so coveted yet so difficult. And to be very honest with you guys, I mean, again, I did say that I was quite the studious type. So it wasn't something that I hated. Uh, it was something that I actually found interesting and challenging. And thankfully, I had a good bunch of kids who were attending the same classes with me. And the institute that we were a part of was a very warm, welcoming, yet challenging and environment, and had some brilliant faculty. And we ended up spending the next 2 years of our lives, most of our 11th and 12th grade, um, preparing for that examination. So time went on, and I'm sure most of you joining here today are engineering students or engineers yourself. And I'm sure you guys know the rest of the story. We're in prepare for your entrance exam, the IEEE and the JEE. The JEE, it was horrible. Did not go well. Back in the day, we had two separate exams for the NITs and the IITs. The JEE for the IITs didn't go well. The IEEE was fairly decent. And by the end of it, I wasn't too sure my chances either. But at the time, I did find the subject of economics very fascinating as well. So there was this, little conundrum that was going on about, okay, do I want to take up economics or do I want to take up engineering? But at the back of my head, I always had, my priorities straight. That is that okay, I want to somehow finish this, get what's called a basic education, and then foray into something that I really want to do, which is filmmaking, right? So economics, even though I was fortunate enough to get admission in a college that was pretty reputed, I finally decided to take up engineering instead. And back in the day, and I suppose it's the same even now, it was IT and computer science and electronics engineering and electronics and communication that was all the rage, right? Because that was what was trending at the time. But for some reason, I thought to myself, and I told my parents that if I'm really going to do this, I might as well do something that I can enjoy, and it's 4 years of my life. I might as well study something that I will enjoy studying. And then that's how I finally got to the decision of doing mechanical engineering. Why? Because I thought it'd be cool, and because I had a fascination towards cars. And that's really the only reason why I ended up taking mechanical engineering. Just a second. So 2000 and 2012, end of 2011, 2012. That's when I um, joined engineering finally, and 2011. I'm sorry, is when I joined engineering. That was at the NIT in Karnataka. And you got to understand that I wasn't a kid who was born and brought up. I was born here, but I wasn't brought up in India, right? So I had a background that was vastly different from most of the people who came to that college. Yes, of course, there was a crowd that did come from abroad, but for a kid who spent most of his time abroad, getting there was a huge culture shock. But fortunately, I had amazing friends in college, and I was very lucky. And I hear a lot of kids, and a lot of people telling me that engineering is a drag, and it's horrible, and it's torturous and whatnot. But fortunately for me, NIT Surathkal wasn't any of those things. Of course, the academics were incredible. Academics was incredibly competitive. We had relative grading, which meant that if you didn't do better than most of the people in your class, you didn't do well. And because there was a lot of dirty, shady stuff going on behind the scenes right before the exams. Your notebooks would go missing, your textbooks would go missing. You know, you'd have people turning off the fuses to hostel wings so that your own classmates would not perform as well as you. And so all of that was a very interesting introduction into the very competitive world of not only engineering but of adulthood, and more importantly of growing up and being a part of the working populace in a country like India, right? Fortunately, though, once again, NIT Surathkal wasn't only a tech uh, college. We had an amazing art scene. We had literary clubs, we had debating societies, we had drama societies, we had a music club, and we had a whole bunch of other clubs. In addition to clubs like IEEE and IE and ASI and Rotract and whatnot, student clubs that organized events year round. Right? So first year when I got there, other than the academics, in fact more than the academics, I made it a point to throw myself headfirst into as many of these activities as I possibly could, because I really enjoyed public speaking. I really enjoyed music. I really enjoyed acting, and if there was, anything that proved to be providing some semblance of filmmaking and all of those things that I held very dear as my passion, it was all of these things, so be it a competition of air crash, be it a competition of be a model UN, be it whatever it is, whichever the events that were organized by these clubs, I made it a point in my first year to throw myself into it. Towards the end of my first year, my second semester, was when a senior of mine, who was then the president of the Rotary Club, which is a student wing of Rotary, uh, came up with the idea of putting up a proper full-scale theater production. So back in the day, theater was restricted to, I keep saying back in the day a lot, but I'm sorry, I think I'm just coming to terms with the fact that I'm finally getting old. But back in the day, there was this understanding that theater was, a medium which is a little too artsy for the common populace, for everybody, right? It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. So theater was restricted to maybe a 15-20 minute play at the start of the cultural festival. We didn't have a theater competition. We didn't have any of those things that really highlighted theater as an art form in itself. So this gentleman, his name was Sujin, he had a brilliant idea of somehow getting the funds to pull off a proper theater production. And proper theater production would be a 2-hour show with an intermission in between, with a proper set and sound and lights and the whole shebang. And the first question in everyone's minds was, how in the world are we going to possibly raise the money for something like that, right? So he threw open auditions, and I saw the auditions, and it was for a play, and it involved acting and all of these things. And I was like, yeah, why not, right? So I threw myself into that as well. Luckily, I got cast as the lead in that play, and it was called, if I'm not wrong, Death Trap, and it was a adaptation of this very famous play called Mousetrap, right? So got into it, and that's when I realized that this guy had it all sorted, right? He was going to reach out to the Rotary Club and sell this little endeavor of ours as a charitable event, which I thought was really cool. Why? Because A, it got us the money we needed, and B, it was a fantastic way to put these two things together. You buy a ticket, you come for the show, you have a great time, and we take the money and we give it to people who are in need of the money, and funnel it through the Rotary Club into projects that are actually going to do the community some good. So that was enough of a pitch to get the entire college behind us. And for the first time, a culture and a tradition that still follows and continues to this day in MIT Surathkal, we were able to put aside, a good 3-4 months of our time into putting up a show that was going to be spectacular in every sense of the word, and it was spectacular. That really got us some traction. Second year came by, and by now, the first year of doing all of the subjects and getting a grip of what it means to be in an engineering college was done. Second year was when we were really thrown into, our specific area of study, and mine being mechanical engineering. And second year was also the year of the dreaded engineering drawing for me, because other than all of the other subjects that required you to attend class and understand the concepts and work out, the intricacies of all of these subjects, engineering drawing was something that required you to just sit down and slog away for 4-5 hours till you draw a piston or an engine or whatever it is that you were drawing. So that was something that I dreaded. I'm sure that a lot of you out there who would share in my sentiment in that regard as well. But coming back to the point, second year came around, and this time around it had been almost 2 years since I did a film, since I did a short film. And so I thought, okay, this year around, let's do something. So in the, again, summer vacations, I had the luxury of around 2 to 3 months. And when I was back home in Kerala, by this time my parents had shifted back home to Kerala, my cousin brother and I, who was kind enough to be my DOP, and him being a photography enthusiast who would later go on to study photography in one of India's premier institutes, we put our heads together, and we decided to do short film, right? So I didn't know many people in Kerala. I didn't have a friend circle who were in town at the time, because most of the people I knew were older to me, and they were in other cities or working and whatnot. So basically, no one had the time for something as um, useless as a short film. But the two of us did, and the two of us really wanted to do something about it, right? So we wrote a short film, and it was called Withdrawal, right? So the premise of the film was about this guy, who would be played by me, who was trying to quit smoking, right? And it was about the withdrawal symptoms that he was then experiencing, and it was about him hallucinating and tripping out on himself, and the left and the right of his mind, the devil and the angel side of himself, um, and I'm trying to come to grips with this whole self-imposed endeavor of trying to quit smoking. Um, that was really interesting for me, because for the first time, I was directing, I was editing, I was acting, and I was also doing the music and whatnot. And Govind, my cousin, was doing the camera. Um, and I was acting not just in one role, but in two roles as well. One of my friends from college, he was in town at the time, fortunately, and he was kind enough to give us a couple of days of his time to come and play my roommate in the short film. Again, back in the day. Again, none of us, neither of us had any intention of sending this film for any film festival or short film competition or anything of that sort, because quite frankly, we weren't very aware of the avenues for showcasing our work. And to us, the best thing that we could have done and we could do was to put it up on YouTube, which we finally did end up doing. And this was the first film for which we had a small marketing campaign of sorts, on Facebook, and we didn't have WhatsApp, so it was primarily through Facebook that we put out a series of posters marketing the release of the film, and we put out a small teaser trailer and everything to get a bit of a hype going. We finally released it on YouTube. Subsequently, I did realize that you can't really just put up anything on YouTube and not pay the price for breaching copyright violation, because a lot of the music that we had in fact used in that film was copyrighted music, and we ended up having to pay the piper. But all things considered, it was a brilliant lesson in filmmaking, and we were able to push the envelope as far as how much we could do as filmmakers was concerned. The trend continued. Third year, we did another play, this time even bigger. And this time around, I got to direct the play as well, because unfortunately, the person who was supposed to direct it met with an accident, and she was, let's say, decommissioned for a couple of months, which ended up, which forced me to direct the play. That happened in third year. Final year finally came around, and we did another play. And by this time, I was really getting into a zone where I was enjoying the whole process of acting and also, directing theatre. And in final year was when we put together what I think to be my last short film. It was called Rats, and it was our homage to the one and only Quentin Tarantino and his first film, Reservoir Dogs. So this was a film that we actually put in a lot of money into. We had to save up our money for a few months, make that budget that we wanted, rent out locations, rent out lights, cameras, and go the whole 9 yards. And it was a 45-minute odd short film, still on YouTube, on my channel. And fortunately for us, that really was met with a lot of praise. 4 years were done. I was done with college. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to get through the campus placement and get a job in Daimler India Commercial Vehicles, which was Daimler AG's Indian division that manufactured trucks and buses, right? And again, fortunately, they were kind enough to put me in the consulting division, which, in my opinion, allowed me to really make the most of the skills that I possessed, which weren't completely technical. So I got into Daimler in Chennai, and it was those 2 years in Chennai when I really got first-hand experience and first-hand exposure to the world of professional theatre. right? So my schedule was wake up at 5, go to work, get out of work by 5:30, report at rehearsals by 6:37, rehearse till 10, 11, get back home, and rinse and repeat for almost 3 or 4 months of the year, when we would try to put up the big show during Christmas time, which is called the Christmas Pantomime, as part of the Little Theatre in Chennai. Fantastic place, some brilliant people. The man at the helm, Mr. Krishna Kumar, a very dear friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He taught me the value of actually, building up a team, and how important that was to any creative endeavor. And whole bunch of lessons learned, and that's when I really got to spread my wings as an actor. And there wasn't much scope for doing a short film during that time, because I was so busy working a 9 to 5 job as well. So things were going okay, and by this time I hadn't completely let go of my ambitions of wanting to be a filmmaker. And like any logically thinking Indian, my idea was to hold the nose around my neck, which was to do an MBA, and do an MBA in entertainment and media, and specifically, if possible, at the Indian School of Business, or NYU, which provided a brilliant course, which was a double degree in filmmaking and filmmaking business. So I wanted to do one of those degrees. I wanted to do one of those courses, and then somehow, divert into this stream of filmmaking, into that world, where somewhere, maybe 10 years down the line, I don't know how, I would be able to get to doing what I really like to do. Fortunately, this brings us to the third act, where one fine day, received a message on one of my theatre groups, and the message read that there was going to be auditions for this upcoming feature film to be directed by this gentleman named Ganesh Raj, produced by this gentleman named Vineet Srinivasan. The Malayalis out there will definitely know who Vineet Srinivasan was, and I was extremely excited to do something like that, and I really didn't put my chips on the table. I didn't think that this was something that I could possibly, get into. So I just, did it for the fun of it. And I sent in an audition tape. And fortunately, once again, the director was kind enough to like what he saw. There were a couple of round of auditions after that. I had to travel down to Kerala. There were private auditions. I had private meetings with the DOP and the director, and then the entire cast was brought together, and we had group auditions where we had to do scenes together. And it was, I think, mid-April, early April, when all of this was going on, and by this time I had actually reached a point in my career where I had to make a decision. Wherein, if you know the hero's journey, there was the the call came around. I had to make a choice: the red pill or the blue pill, about do I join this really good B school, the Indian School of Business, and take the long route, or do I take up this amazing offer to be a part of this film. So it was quite the task to convince my parents once again about my ambitions and about what I really wanted to do, because in my heart I knew that I had to take up this opportunity. It was too good to let go. Fortunately, once again, they were kind enough to agree, and that's how Aanandam happened. And that was by far the 3 or 4 best months of my life, making a film that I still, to this day, consider the finest film that I've had the pleasure of being a part of. Things picked up after then, and 2 years later, here I am, having acted in 10 feature films, and having done a few ads on the side. And it was in 2018 that Ganesh Raj, the gentleman who directed Aanandam, and myself and a couple of others got together and finally decided to, let's pool in our talents and our resources and make an investment towards our vision of the future, and somehow set the platform for us to do the kind of films that we really wanted to do. And that's how Mad Genius was born. The whole idea behind Mad Genius was to bring together very talented individuals. I'll just wrap up real quick. To bring together very talented individuals, primarily kids, of 19, 20 years of age, who, just like us, are confused, but very passionate, and looking for an opportunity to prove their worth, and looking for an opportunity that pays, because the biggest problem that you have when you're setting off into the film industry is the fact that it doesn't always pay. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it doesn't really get you the kind of financial stability and employment that you would desire. And that was something we wanted to change, and that's something that we've tried to do for all of the people who've been kind enough to be a part of our journey. We have a team of around 10 amazingly talented individuals with us right now, all of them amazing writers and directors and animators and administrators in their own right. And hopefully in the coming years, we'll be able to take the next step and start paving the way to our dreams. Because finally, when looking back after speaking for so long and looking back at this journey of mine, one thing I did realize is that, uh, your dreams are only as big as you set them. Back in the day, I just wanted to, become a filmmaker, and lo and behold, I got my start in the film industry as an actor. And this dream of mine of being a filmmaker is still unaccomplished, but thankfully, for some reason, the universe has been kind, and things have been going in the right direction, or at least I hope they have been. So if there's one thing I like to leave you guys with, it's just this. I mean, enjoy the process, because everything else is beyond your control. Everything else, the opportunities, the right time, the right place, all of that will come eventually, right? But what you need to do, and what you need to consistently keep doing, is to just keep swaying and just keep enjoying the process and the work. Keep learning, keep improving. Enough and more mediums out there where you can learn from for free. If you have a phone, you can definitely make a feature film in today's day and age. If you can have a phone, that means you can set out on your own short film adventure, and someday, hopefully, be it acting or writing or direction or music or whatever it is that you want to do, which is off the beaten path. For as long as you keep swimming, someday, the opportunity will come looking for you, and someday you'll be able to live out your dream. So I suppose that's pretty much everything I have to say about my journey. And if there's anything that anyone would like to ask, that'd be great.
Thank you, sir. It was really wonderful section. Now let's move on to the interactive session. So first question is from Thomas Kajemi. I think he's an ardent fan of Mamuka. He wants to know about the experience working with him in Putanpanam.
Right. So Mamuka, again, if there are non-Malayalis watching, Mamuka is our megastar, and he is one of the two big names in Malayalam cinema. So Mammootty as Mamuka as a person, he is a person who commands respect. Excuse me if I'm breaking into Malayalam right now. But as there is this aura that man projects out into the world, which just makes you want to leap out of your chair and just stand in respect and awe of the man. But that was my first impression. Later on, there were scenes that I had to perform alongside him, and he was such a gentleman. He was so nice he was nice enough to come up to myself and the other young actors on set and spend some quality time with us, pull up a chair and sit next to us and talk to us about what filmmaking is all about, and give us tips and encourage us in our journey as well. So all in all, I mean, it was overwhelming, yes, but it was also a very heartwarming experience to have someone of his stature really come up to you and try to put in a good word. And yeah, so Mamuka is I mean, working with him is something that I'll never forget. I mean, if there's one anecdote, it'd be there was a scene where I have to go up and call him a panni, or naindamoni or something like that, right? Basically a bad word. So the director, again, a legendary director, is Mr. Ranjit. He yells action. I go up to him and I swear at him. And as soon as he yells cut, I mean, I just, recall, and I'm like, sir, I'm so sorry. Dialogue, as if to say, it's okay, it's just a dialogue, you're acting, right? But there was also equal parts of, yeah, it's just dialogue. I mean, you can call me all of that when you're acting, but otherwise, well, I need you to respect me. So that's the kind of man Mamuka is. He has the heart of a child and uh, the wisdom of all of his years working in this industry.
Yeah, moving on to the second question, it's from William Sam. So you have done about 8 to 9 movies over the past 3 years. So which one is your favorite movie or your favorite character?
I've done 10 films, and I think my favorite character to this day has to be Kuppy. Because, like I said before, that's the character that I enjoyed saying the most, in the sense the whole filmmaking experience was very special, again, because it was my first film, and most importantly, because it was what gave me my big break. It was what finally got me recognized, and it's still what people it recognize me by, and that's such a heartwarming feeling, and I think it's a huge let's say compliment to be recognized by a character that you've essayed, and I think it's a blessing to be referred to as Kupi even to this day.
Okay, moving on to our third question. It's from Hisham Sharif. He wants you to give some advice for people who are struggling to get into the movie industry.
Again, Hisham, like I said before, if there's one thing you can do, is to just keep doing. If you want to be a filmmaker, a director, then you just keep shooting whatever you can. If you have a bunch of friends, and if you have a phone, you can easily put together a compelling story. And in today's day and age, there is no excuse to, not do any of those things. If you want to be an actor, get out there and act in as many short films or theater plays or music videos or whatever you can. And ultimately, find the joy in doing that, because the so-called struggling phase is something that will never end. Even I don't know, even a Spielberg will have his days where he's buckling down under his insecurity, and I think it was Dulquer Salman in one of his interviews who said that even today, after achieving so much, when he's sitting at home without a film project to work on, his mom comes up to him and asks him, "Indutti, you don't have anything to work on?" That's a question that you'll constantly have to deal with, and that insecurity is something that you'll have to deal with for the rest of your life if you're planning on getting into this industry. And the only way to keep sane and to keep improving and to keep happy is to keep swimming and to keep working and finding the joy in the process.
Okay, fourth question is posted by Devika Suresh, and she wants to know who is your role model in this industry. And it's not limited to Indian cinemas only. You can say anyone's name, and you want to say the reason also.
Role model in this industry. To be very honest with you, I have a few role models. Filmmakers, actors, a whole bunch of people. But if there's one person I think who really inspires me more than anyone else, it's the one and only Charlie Chaplin. The reason being that he was a gentleman who wrote, directed, acted, and produced in a whole bunch of films, and who created a legacy that is unmatched to this day. And I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, and I'm a person who's at least dreaming of a future where I'm doing more than just act. And I think having someone like Charlie Chaplin to look up to is in line with the kind of work that I want to do in the future.
Yeah, so moving on to the last question of our session, it's from Vinay Matthew Verghese. So he has seen your LinkedIn profile, and there it's mentioned that you're working as the managing director and chairman of one visual media company, Mad Genius. So would you like to share the experience there?
Right. So Mad Genius is a company which like I mentioned earlier, was started by Ganesh Raj and myself and a bunch of us in 2018 officially as a company. Before that, it was an artist collective of a bunch of technicians and artists who would come together and work on projects on a project by project basis. But it was only in 2018 that we all got together and made it a proper private limited company in a sense. Magenius is a place where we have our offices in Kalamashedi in Cochin. And over the last couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to do a lot of good films for some amazing, talented individuals in terms of music videos for the likes of Bhuvan Bam and Abba Hanjura, When Shy Met Toast, Mojo Jojo, and a whole bunch of other artists. We've been fortunate enough to work with brands like Flipkart and OnePlus and Arjuna Naturals and a whole bunch of others. And fundamentally, what it is a platform where aspiring actors, directors, and primarily filmmakers of any capacity can come and learn from each other and really spread their wings and work on projects more often than they would be able to if they were, freelancers in the sense. Going forward, fingers crossed, we hope for and we pray that our vision becomes a reality, and our vision is to make Magenius a proper film production studio. A studio system is wherein you have an in-house a pool of talent of directors and writers and producers and technicians who collaborate very often to come up with films all year round. And you have a lineup of films that you bring out one after the next all year round. So that's the kind of model that we would like to pivot into, and currently we're in the process of making that pivot. And inshallah, sometime maybe down the line, you'll be able to see produced by Magenius up on the big screen someday.
Yeah, one more question is there. So the so-called award movies are not getting commercially successful. So what can we do from our part to give them some amount of success? And it's posted by Grishma Stani.
Great. Thank you, Grishma. That was a very nice question. See, the thing about award films, and I kind of don't always, I don't really encourage calling them award films, but the thing about low budget movies that are primarily intended for a festival circuit, an independent film, is that these films are made on a very shoestring budget. They don't have the economics of cinema is such that unless there is a fair amount of money invested into marketing your product and making it reach an audience, people like you and me may not be able to watch these films at your at a cinema near you. That said, if you keep your if anyone watching here is interested in following these independent films and these so-called award films, film festivals are definitely the one place where you can go and really enjoy these films, these amazing films, and show your support for these films. And more importantly, with the advent of OTT, platforms like Netflix and Amazon and the others are picking up award films now, picking up independent films now for showcasing on their roster of films online. So I think that we're in a very interesting time where the distinguishing line between commercial mainstream cinema and art films is slowly getting blurred, because all of this content is being put up on a common platform like an OTT platform for everyone to enjoy. So I don't think we have anyone to blame with regards to not being able to watch many award films or art films, because most of these films simply don't have the resources for wide release. But OTT platforms and film festivals right now are where you can catch them, and I must say there's some amazingly powerful, interesting films out there. If you're really interested, Mubi, which is another OTT platform, is an amazing choice because they curate their films on a weekly basis. So it's not like Netflix where you have millions of titles to go through. You have a very select set of really good films from around the world that is presented to you every week, and that makes sure. That kind of encourages you to watch a good film every week, regardless of your time and availability and your capacity to go and actually attend a festival, because these platforms are providing a wonderful platform for these films.
Okay, so we are winding up a session, and it was really nice talk. And I thank you on behalf of us at IEEE for being a part of our Talk Group series. And I thank all the audience for being a part of our series for the past 7 days. And guys, we will be coming out with much more interesting stuff. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Take care and stay safe. Bye.